Hi, welcome back to the Hot Diggity Dog Read to Your Dog at Home series. And today we're going to bring you chapter 2 of The Adventures of Humboldt. And Dory is listening, I think. Are you listening, Dory? She looks like she's listening. Anyway, I hope at home, wherever you are, you get a lot of fun with my second chapter. So we're going to find out what's happened to Humboldt. He's just left his home under the bridge at the Albert Street neighborhood. Chapter 2. Gathering up her thick brown hair, which was wisped with gray, Mrs. Gimmage wove a single braid and pinned it around her head. She smoothed her lavender gingham dress and started down the stairs. "The poor hedge," she muttered as she went down. "It wants pruning. It'll think that I've forgotten all about it." She crossed the yard to the back shed, where she pushed open the door as far as she could and squeezed through. Inside, the room spilled over with cartons, piled in alphabetical order according to contents. Boxes of almond creams stood nearest the door, crates of lemon lozenges and licorice occupied the middle, and tins of sarsaparilla lined the back wall. "Mustn't forget about the hedge," Mrs. Gimmage reminded herself. She seized upon a pair of garden clippers and went outside to prune, filling a basket with sweet-smelling honeysuckle branches. How she loved that fragrance! It was the nicest thing to be out in the sun-dusted garden. She was still pruning when her foot bumped something under the hedge. She bent down and saw a large, furry thing. A giant hedgehog? It isn't a hedge after all, she thought. A badger, perhaps? An escaped possum? She was reluctant to disturb it. With one eye shut, she stuck out her hand and grabbed a furry limb, pulling the creature out onto the grass. Her eyes moved slowly up its body. Why, it wasn't a hedgehog, and it didn't look dead. It had flat, broad feet, short legs and arms, and a little brown furry belly. Her gaze came to rest on its face. Its mouth was small and round as tuppence, its nose flat, as if it had been pressed against a window too long, and oops, its eyes popped open, round as ginger biscuits. Why, it was a troll, of course, and a very startled one at that. Mrs. Gimmage hauled the stuporous troll to its feet. When she let it go, it swayed slightly, its eyelids batting furiously, but it managed to keep upright. "Who have I the pleasure?" She shook a damp, furry paw. The troll said nothing. "You needn't be afraid of me. It's quite a waste of time. I'm aware you're a troll, which you've a perfect right to be. I say, I'm familiar with trolls, although I never expected a visit from one in my honeysuckle hedge. Come along. You're soaked through like an old sponge." Mrs. Gimmage walked crisply on her poker stick legs towards the door. She looked back. The troll was close behind her. "Well, if you're too shy to tell me your name, it could be a bit awkward, but I'll tell you mine. I'm Mrs. A.C. Gimmage, not a gimme sort of Gimmage, but a Gimmage who likes sweet puddings, Darjeeling teas, well-behaved children, cats of all sorts, and trolls, of course." Mrs. Gimmage pointed up to the sign above the shop. The name was written in lemon gumdrops studded on a royal blue background. Painted a crisp white, the shop had green and red striped shutters and a thatched roof. "Let me introduce to you to my very own, on Her Majesty's service, ever so splendiferous sweet shop." Ching, ching, went the legs of the frog knocker as Mrs. Gimmage flung the shop door open. Jars of colorful sweets winked at Humboldt like a sea of jewels. Mrs. Gimmage pulled him inside and gave him a quick wipe down with her lavender-scented handkerchief. "Welcome to Gimmage Gumdrop, Inc. I say, you are the first and only troll to set your paw upon these premises, but never mind. I suspect you and I are going to get along like a house on fire." Humboldt looked up at Mrs. Gimmage, who was smiling broadly, exposing a set of rickety teeth. He nodded ever so slightly. Just one question, if I might. Why, of course, ask away. He could talk. Gumdrop ink? How do you squeeze the ink out of the gumdrops? And isn't it very messy for writing? Humboldt fancied that after he tackled the intricate art of spelling, he might even take up writing. Gumdrop ink could be just the thing for him. Mrs. Gimmage roared with laughter and patted Humboldt on his head. Dearie me, what a sticky mind you have. I can see you'll need a lot of explaining. Now, shall I show you around? End of chapter 2. But I'd like to introduce you to a very shy, but I think he wants to say hello to my friends at home. Here's Humboldt, and he's so happy to have you along on the adventures. Thank you. Until next day, hop aboard for chapter 3.